Welcome everybody to episode 63 of New Game Experience. My name is Juan Paulini. I'm your host for this podcast where we talk about video games and topics that are hopefully interesting. I'm sitting here with my usual co-host, Cristian Caroli, the one and
Happy New
only.
Year.
Happy New Year. And of course, we have a special guest, Valentina. How are you, my friend?
Hi, Happy New Year, guys. How are you? I'm fine.
Valentina is the first woman to ever talk in a podcast.
In a-
So
Yes,
once again,
about
we're the most groundbreaking show in the internet.
exactly first woman talking about gaming ever on record. Actually, like this has
record,
never
yeah.
happened.
Women's and video games, they usually don't exist. Ever.
Yes, who would have thought? But yeah,
have
of course
thought?
yeah, exactly. So the topic for today, if you didn't guess it already, well, if you click the video, you already know. So it's kind of stupid. But the topic of today is women in video games or female representation in video games. I think the term female representation kind of talks a little bit about, maybe I'm wrong, but I think more about like female protagonists in games, which is not the only thing that we're going to be talking about. So maybe that's a little reductive. But yeah, so we're going to go into it as we go. But before we begin talking about that, I'd love to hear a little bit more about Valentina and like your background of gaming. And, you know, like you don't really have to go that much detail into it if you don't want to. We just want to know a little bit about your tastes
Yeah,
and all that.
I won't give you my address, but
Okay.
well, I'm a computer engineering student, and I've been playing video games since, as usually most people do, since I was a little kid. Currently, or I think that I got involved into game design and game development when I was like maybe 18 years old, something like that. I'm 23 now. And then I started going to game jams to actually see what it was like, because I thought it was a really cool concept, to be not only a passive player but actually participate in something like that. And so I went to one of these game jams. I fell in love. Then I end up being like an organizer for a game jam, and I've been working in that towards that in the past for the past years. And then later, when I was in my old university, actually I'm a college dropout. I'm not a student
Oh my
anymore.
god. Just like Mark Zuckerberg.
Get out.
Yeah, exactly. No. Bill Gates, who are you? I'm coming for you. I'm
Bill
the new
Gates,
Bill Gates.
Steve Jobs, some
Mark
other
Zuckerberg,
random
maybe?
people.
I
Mark
don't know.
Zuckerberg
Maybe.
dropped out of
Yeah.
Harvard.
Yeah, there's a movie about that.
True.
So, at my university, at college, I wanted to make something. I think that, especially at my university, people were a bit nerdy in general. That was the vibe. So I wanted to do something for them, some kind of a convention inside the uni, so the nerdy people can come together and be nerds together. So I was the organizer of a brand new convention inside our uni, and it went really cool. We did 2 editions of that, and it was called GeekCon, and there were a lot of people talking about video games, but also fantasy, board games, books, sagas, and all that kind of stuff. Of course, anime. People could play. There were like TVs or people playing Super Smash, and we have a tournament of Super Smash tournament. Those kind of stuff. So people could talk together, come together, talk about the things that they like, and geek out a little bit. So that
Fucking
was
nerds,
nice.
huh?
Am I right?
Oh my god.
Fucking nerds. Okay, cool. And so, what was your first? I mean, this is a question I always like to ask people. But what was your first console growing up?
A PS1. Yeah. That's a PS1.
Nice. And
Oh,
what was like your the game?
Christian.
What?
I'm old. I'm feeling
Yeah,
like so
yeah,
fucking old.
yeah.
I'm
I
just
mean,
gonna like jump out the fucking window. My time here is done.
well, I mean, I
Yeah.
got to admit, I wasn't that little when I got my PS1. I mean, my friends already had, I don't know, Game Boys and stuff. But my first console was a PS1.
Okay. And
But
what
my
was the
first
game?
handheld, sorry, was a
Okay. Okay.
DS.
Yeah. Okay. And what was the game on the PS1 that was like scratched out because you had played it so much, or I don't know, like which was that game?
Pepsi Man, definitely.
Wow. Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah. I still had the copy. I mean, I don't have the PS1 because my mom uh, sold it a few years ago without my consent. But I still have the games. So I still have my copy of Pepsi Man
God
Hold that.
save Pepsi, man.
and
Save it.
Bomberman.
Save
I
it.
think Bomberman was also a huge thing. Think
Well, good thing that it's no longer 1999, and now we don't need men, so we don't have Pepsi Man or Bomberman. Now today we're going to talk about representation.
Yeah, exactly. It's good. Then
Pepsi
the
person,
sequel, the sequel is gonna come 20 years later, and it's gonna be Pepsi person or
Pepsi
something like
people,
that. Pepsi
Pepsi
people.
folks.
exactly.
Yeah, Pepsi folks. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, I
so
think.
let's get into the topic here. Of course, as I said at the beginning, female representation. Of course, I mean, as I said to Valentina when we were kind of preparing for this episode, I could sit down here and just talk with Christian about this, but in the end, of course, it's not like our opinions. Like the way that I see it is that our opinions are valid. However, there's like a threshold that they always kind of can reach, and it's like, I mean, we can talk about all this all we want, but there's always like, I don't know, because
There's
it
so much
like
a white cis dude knows. There's so
Damn
much
right.
you can
yeah,
go.
Damn right.
Yeah.
exactly.
Me, my
So,
opinion is invalid.
but so
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I get it. Like, I get what you say,
yeah.
and you're right.
Okay, so let's just begin about like let's go around the table, even though this is not a table, but you guys know what I mean. Let's go around the table and say like, what do we think about this topic, and how important do we think it is for us personally, and then we'll get into nitty gritty. Of course, let's begin with Valentina.
Well, sometimes I mean, when I think that I told you this before, people say like, oh, how is female representation important in video games or in whatever? It doesn't have to be video games in any industry. It's always like, I mean, women are like 51% of the world. Like, what? It's not like it is important. I mean, it has to exist because you are then erasing like half of the planet. And but then you get to take into account that at least in video game history, uh, at least in the last 25 years, maybe 30 years, marketing wise is, I think it has been directed to the male audience, even boys, you know. So I think now in the 21st century and in the past decade, people are realizing that, you know, girls want to play video games and women can play video games. I mean, amazing concept, you know. So if you don't want to keep making the same mistakes of the past, and having this culture when in which you don't think that women are interested in this area, then you have to change the things that are how are things being done, you know. So it's not only the fact that you want a female protagonist, which, I mean, representation is something, and it is important, but also having women in the workspace, you know, women inside the gaming industry, besides you know, all the dudes making video games, which is hard. And it's not only like, oh, you need 50% woman in your company. It's not like that. But certainly it has to be easier for women to enter the industry because it's a bit hard still today.
Okay. How about you, Christian? What do you
I
feel about
love
this?
women. No, just kidding. I, I mean, I think that when we talk about more like representation, I think that usually the work is a product of the artist. In the sense that I think that it's a self fulfilling prophecy when a hobby or like an activity is only reserved for a group of people, and then that group of people are the ones that enhance it, and then they're the ones that keep it alive, and then the ones that spend money, and to some extent, also that has been classically the role of kind of like video games have always been a very masculine role because they I think that they've always been attached to very I would say masculine attributes like socially like they're super
Yeah.
competitive, they tend to be
Okay.
violent, they're fast paced, and as we explore and then we have more abilities to we have more tools to like build games and experiment, and more people are making games for different demographics, and I think that right now we're kind of like in a healthy space, I would say, when it comes to like where the industry is trying to go creatively and like what the things are being tried. Even more, I would say that in places like movies or TV shows, like I think that there's still some passion left in the industry and some good ideas, but it's a bit tricky to get it right. I think because the main motivation for some of the companies for doing this is not necessarily to be good; it's just to make
Uh,
money.
of course.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, no, I agree with everything that you guys are saying. Because like Valentina said, it's like, I mean, when we were going for the questions, preparing for this first question, I was like, this is like like when you read this question, what do we think about female representation? It sounds very stupid, and it's very stupid because if you say I'm for it, it's like so obvious that it's very stupid, and if you say you're
Yes.
against it, it's
Oh, you
stupid for
don't hate woman.
yeah. Exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Um,
it's very
love
stupid, but
Point.
yeah, exactly,
alpha
point for
males
you.
protecting their video games.
But like I think that, I mean, of course it's important. The thing I always struggle with, and not in regards to female representation, is that how can we believe that I would no, I'm kidding. So the thing that I struggle is that representation is something that I think it's important. However, the way that I see it demanded sometimes is the thing that I take issue with. And of course, I'm not going to tell anybody how to do their thing. Like, if your cause in Twitter or in life is to try to make sure that there's more female protagonists in the world, like, do your thing. But, like, I think that there's sometimes like this villainification of the current and the past creators, where I don't know if you guys agree, but like sometimes the narrative seems to be that there's no like there's less female protagonists because the men in charge don't want there to be. And I don't think, even though there is an example that we have here written down that is exactly what I'm describing, I don't think that that is the overall experience of what's happening in the industry, and maybe even beyond the industry, like in Hollywood or whatever. So I don't know if, how you guys feel
Maybe
about that
currently.
point
Maybe
specifically.
maybe that. I
Yeah.
mean, currently, if maybe 20 years ago, I mean, you have a really good case of thinking why you should have a male protagonist. I mean, from the perspective of the industry or for a company that want to make money. Although I think that that has proven to be completely wrong, and I mean, it's just not. I mean, you're not going to lose a considerable amount of people buying your game if you have a female protagonist. I mean, I think we know that already, but 25 years ago, you didn't know that. I mean, maybe you did, but I can see how this thinking can come across in the industry in the past. And I mean, of course, you said like you're not gonna say how you're gonna ask, you're not gonna tell people how they should ask for the things that they want, you know. I get that, but I also think that it is important anyways to makes some noise, and I do believe that maybe some of the things that have been said, they are way blown over proportion when people weren't actually uh, they weren't bad people, or even it's not about being good or bad, because that's the thing. It's not about being a misogynistic person, or not being, or hating woman or loving woman. It's not like that. There's a spectrum, and you need to understand that if you are born in this hell of a world, then you're gonna be subjected to to things in our culture that make you do things a certain way. And I don't think that, for example, if you have a male protagonist right now, oh, that's because they didn't have the guts to have a female lead, or they don't want a female protagonist. I think there are other reasons, but I do believe there are some people that are just outright against woman in general. But I
Oh yeah.
think that the thing that it comes together with the time, after a few years, I think it has gotten better. I think 5 years ago, or maybe when Gamergate happened, I think it was the worst era, but it was important for it to happen,
The
you
dark
know
times. I don't play games with women. I just hand over the control to my girlfriend when we play The Last of Us. I only play
what
girl.
girlfriend?
Ah, you got me.
Oh.
Ah,
You got me. It's all a lie. It's a joke, elaborate joke. I think that there is this idea nowadays of demanding things because, like, it's like the end justifies the means. It's like I want this, which is fair and just, and then there's no way that you can like argue against it. If someone's like, "Oh, you should have a female lead because women need help," what are you gonna say? Like, no, women didn't need help. It's like you could say this is just a fucking game, and the protagonist is just gonna be this white dude riding a motorcycle, because it's like the game I want to make. And I think to some extent these are expressions of art, and sometimes people have a story that they want to tell, and they're not gonna fit the mold that people are demanding. And you also have to be brave to like because in the end, like I like this line from the Jodorowsky that he says that art is an act of violence. Like it should, like it's not like you're gonna do whatever it's expecting from you. Like those are the things that usually like flop, or like no one cares, especially because like most of the people demanding like representation or a change or like doing it like after the fact, most of them are like not gonna play a game. They just fucking hate you. Otherwise, they wouldn't be like bashing you to change things. And I think that's one of the things like to take into account. Like some of the kind of like, let's call it, let's just for the meme, let's call it like forced diversity examples in gaming. um they they definitely fuck up the game. Like I think that Ubisoft at some point um they decided that all their games are gonna have, you're gonna be able to choose kind of like the gender. You're gonna be able to play as a dude or as a girl, and in doing so, something happened, which is well, let's talk a little bit about like what triggered that. What triggered that is like they found out that someone had an idea of having like a female Assassin's Creed protagonist, and some jerks were like, "It's no fucking way, bro. No one's gonna play that shit," and they boxed it. And since that shitstorm happened, they dramatically like reshaped the way they were going to make games. And I think that those games have shittier stories because they don't commit to something as relevant in the character of a person as their gender, like, which is ironic because that's one of the things that they're fighting for. And then you have a Viking. Like, let's talk about like the last game. What's the last game of that shitty
Valhalla.
franchise? Valhalla. Yeah.
Shitty
So
franchise.
you're either a dude or you're either a woman. So being a Viking dude, let's say it's cool. It's kind of like a power fantasy. But being a Viking woman, it's not that like off the shelf. Like the story should be a little bit different. The characters should treat you dramatically different, and the way that the adventure goes should probably change. Because like even though I know that it doesn't happen, that Assassin's Creed is not real life. I'm sorry to break it down to Juan, who probably thinks it's real fiction. No, I'm sorry. Um, it still like has to hold to some ground that is based on. So they're definitely missing on that because some jerks were like, no one will ever play Assassin's Creed with women.
Or maybe if it's
Yeah,
not, I mean,
absolutely.
I think that the idea of having a female Viking is even more badass than another clone of Ezio. So you can go both ways.
Oof,
Either
I wish it was a clone of Ezio. It's at this point it's like The Witcher 3.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think I totally agree with what you guys are saying because oh, I said guys. Oh my god. I'm sorry.
Oh my god, you fucking
No.
pig.
I
So
mean,
no.
guys is gender neutral in my
Oof,
head at least.
oof, we're gonna get
That is
demonetized
controversial,
if we were
but
making money.
I'm gonna agree with you and follow that line of logic from now on. Okay? No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Well, I am kidding. Other people might not be, but I'm kidding. So yeah, by making it one size fits all with all this whole thing, by making it one size fits all, you lose a little bit of identity. And what I mean by that is that if they had committed, like, okay, let's make Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is the one that we're talking about, where Cassandra is the only protagonist that we have, then you can kind of adapt some things throughout the course of the game, throughout how NPCs treat you, and make the story more, let's say, custom or specialized for the fact that you're having a female protagonist. If you make it so that you can be a man or a woman, you kind of have to make it like a little bit more generic. You kind of have to fix some dialogues so that they don't say anything that pertains to it being a man or a woman, so that like you have to make all of these compromises, which might not sound like a lot, but I think that they can kind of limit devs in a way, like at least the writers. I believe that 100%, because you can see, like, for example, I don't know, like The Last of Us Part 2, which is a very successful, controversial, but that's not the point, very successful game with a female protagonist. Like that, like the fact that Ellie is important to that story. It's not just whoever.
Like
And
the whole twist of the DLC, which is like one of the most critically acclaimed DLCs in the history of gaming, is that she's a lesbian. You know,
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, and I
And
mean, I don't think that every game that does what Kristen said about you can choose either you're female or male or whatever. I don't think it's bad, the idea. I mean, I also, as a woman, I think that's cool. I mean, I remember that every time every time I pick a character, I go for a female protagonist every time because I mean, usually I like them better. But sometimes, for example, and I know you guys are gonna hate it, but I mean, in Cyberpunk,
I
you
have
can
no hate for
choose.
that game. No hate, absolutely.
Maybe Christian does, but
Yeah.
but anyways, in Cyberpunk, you can choose either you're female or male protagonist. But if you're female, you can have certain interactions with certain people that you can have if you're male. And if you're male, you have different interactions. For example, I mean, V, the protagonist in Cyberpunk, if V is female, she's a lesbian, so you can do certain things. If you're male V, which is a straight dude, then other things happen, and I think that's cool. I mean, that's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was actually gonna go to that,
sounds
but
like a
I
great
kind of
game.
forgot. Like Bethesda games, I
Maybe you
give them a
should
lot of
try it.
I should try it. I should buy it for the Does it run on the PS4? Oh,
Sometimes.
sometimes if you look down to the
depends.
floor. By the way, when I mentioned that, like the fact that you can choose kind of like your gender or like customize your character, I meant that for like story-driven games. Like obviously,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
any
I get
any,
it. I
any
get it.
it's not like you can't have a Fortnite skin if you are
Yeah,
rich.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like the point I wanted to make is that similar to Cyberpunk, which I haven't played, but I've played a ton of Bethesda games where you can do this. Like you can choose whatever character you want and create the character and everything. There, I think they do a better job of this because I've never felt the dialogue like constrained in the same way that I feel it in Ubisoft game. And maybe we're just trying to shit on Ubisoft, which is something that we do a lot in this podcast. So I apologize. Well, not really, but So there is a way to do it, but I do believe that if, like Christian said, if you're gonna do a story, like a story-driven game where the story is like the central part, having that option kind of makes you do all these compromises that we already talked about. So yeah, I think. Okay, so let's move on. Unless you guys want, there's something you want to say about that we didn't cover, or somebody. Okay. So the thing that I want to ask Valentina specifically is about the whole female versus male protagonist thing growing up, because one of the, let's say, arguments that I hear, and I think that it's very valid, is that when you grow up and you see, let's say, yourself or somebody like you on the screen or on doing whatever job you're aspiring to, it kind of incentivizes you to seek that out if that's like your initial calling. So for you specifically in games, like, did the fact that you were always playing as a straight white dude in all games, like whether it's Doom, Zelda, I don't know, whatever you want to place hold here, did that affect your experience in any way as a woman?
Well, I mean, since I still play video games and I'm looking back when I was a kid and I was playing, I do not believe that, not at least when I was a kid, which is different when you are a teenager, you know. But when I was a kid, I didn't felt it that way. I mean, I didn't realize of that because a lot of things are preconceptions that we have from our society, and then I mean maybe you can realize like, oh, now okay, I never saw a woman. I mean, but you realize of that later on, not while you are a kid. What I do can tell that it is different the way video games were, how I felt video games compared to my boyfriends, not boyfriends apart, you know, like
Yeah,
my
like
friends
friends
that
who
are
are
male.
Your
boys. Yeah,
fellow
yeah, yeah.
male friends.
My fellow male friends. For example, I mean, even my parents always thought that video games are more like a boyish thing. So, you know, they got me a PS1 a little bit later on in my life. I got a computer first than a PS1, you know. uh, and they, although I used to had a lot of games, I knew that my parents weren't like encouraging that hobby of mine. And if I go to my friend's house, my girlfriend's houses, none of them, or almost not a single one of them, had a console. But if one of them had a brother, usually the boy had a console. But it wasn't like the family console. It was the boys' console. It was the
Mm,
PlayStation from the brother of
yeah.
my girlfriend. So when you grow up, I mean, you may think, then what are girls playing? But girls were playing things too. Girls were playing things, other games that maybe, I don't know. I for example, wasn't playing usually games like Resident Evil, because I mean that scared me the shit out of me when I was a kid. So I didn't play that, but I used to play other things. I mean, girls were playing The Sims. Girls were playing Neopets. Girls were also playing Resident Evil. I'm not saying that the girls weren't playing it, you know, but the thing is that girls were also playing games, but maybe not the same games that boys were playing. You know, so and you have sagas just like Zelda that I think that are very universal. Although, you know, Link is a boy. I think Link is a boy though.
Of
Yeah,
course, a boy.
yeah.
Uh,
Straight
but you
up
know,
white male.
but you have Zelda. So there is some representation there, and there's, you know, but it's like, oh, Zelda is a princess, yada yada yada. But again, what I'm trying to say is that although I didn't felt the lack of representation while I was growing up, I do felt that what girls were playing and what boys were playing were different things. And the things that girls were playing were like, you know, lesser type of games. You know what I
Okay.
mean? It's
Yeah,
like,
like
yeah, they're less important
Facebook games or
than, yeah,
those sort of games. Yeah.
yeah, you know, games that didn't matter. You know, oh, you're playing Nintendogs. I'm pretty sure Nintendogs was very, very successful for Nintendo.
Was super hardcore, by the way. Incredible
Hardcore.
piece of
But
software.
if you ask people about, I mean, nobody's gonna talk about Nintendogs, but why not? If that was such a successful game, then I mean, someone has to think of making games that girls are playing. Why nobody talks about? I don't know. I always bring up Neopets because I think it has a higher demographic of girls who are playing in their browsers. That's another thing. Girls used to play a lot in their browsers. If you want to create video games, I think you need to understand what girls likes to play, on what why certain games like I don't know The Sims are very popular among both of their populations.
I think that the reason for that tends to happen as well because they're designed by a very diverse team that is looking to solve a diverse problem. Like The Sims, for example, is a game that's very universal. It's not a. It's basically you like living kind of like a second life inside a computer, and it's not violent. It's not very competitive. It's a, ooh, I mean, you could drown your family in the pool if you wanted that. Trick them in the inside a fire. I know all the tricks, but in essence, the main same thing for Animal Crossing. Like these are games that they have. When you the more you like the more you cater to an audience. That's the thing with games. Like the more you cater to an audience, the more reduced is going to be your audience. So, for example, if you say, okay, I'm Sony is publishing a game by Hideo Kojima. That game is for Hideo Kojima nerds, and there's a limited amount of those. Those are people that are willing to invest money, buy the game several times, whatnot, make really good publicity. But when you make a game that's kind of like for everyone, it's a bigger challenge because it has to be a really good game by itself, and not many games can do that. And also, you need to talent to understand that audience. For the longest time, and I think that's still the case today, women that make games, they love games, and in a way, they fell in love with the games that were built by men. And some of the games that they're gonna put out, they're gonna look like those games because those are the influence and those are kind of like the state of the art. And it's really hard to like imagine that some games don't exist or don't go there naturally. And there are cases there's several like the industry right now is booming with diverse talent, not only male white male talent but also like from everywhere. And one of the examples I like is Unsighted. Like it's a pixel art kind of like Souls like Metrovania game that is built by a LGBTQ studio in Brazil. And two of the directors are trans women. And to some extent, you play that game and you understand that it has kind of like an influence of what their identity is, and that happens because well they managed to put like a part of them into the game, and that game will appeal to a demographic that probably does not feel they didn't feel represented in other titles until now, and that could be kind of like an entry point for them. But most important, it's an honest game. Like it's if you play it, you're not gonna be like, oh, this was made by trans women. You know, like you're just gonna be like, this is a really good game. And if you think about it and you and understand the developers, you're gonna be like, oh, which is it's a little bit of this is in the critics there's this called author theory, meaning like you can't understand a product without understanding its author. And I think that in video games until now that hasn't really happened. Like games are a marketing product to some extent. You know usually until now you didn't have kind of like a director, like relevant people participating. Even like voice acting wasn't that popular as it is today to some extent. So I guess that in a way, what we're saying is that it's taking a more mature shape, and that's cool. So that's kind of how I see where the representation is going to go. But I think it's worth discussing a little bit, kind of like the corporate part of it, because again, some people are like trying to. I don't like saying virtual signaling because it's kind of like one of those kind of like stupid terms in the internet, like to the but some companies are trying to like artificially inject this type of honesty which is like, oh, now every character in Overwatch is gay. It's like, well, I don't think that's what, like the queer community wants. I mean,
Yeah,
some people
it's
might be.
like the token gay or the token woman. And,
Well, so they make that trying to appeal like certain audience, but at the same time, they that's not the ultimate goal. The goal is to make money. It's not like a real honest work, and I think that's when people like really complain, because usually most of these controversies, they only happen when the game is shit. Like if the game is good, no one's complaining. Like no one's until only for memes people have complained about kind of like Horizon Zero Dawn and the way that they'll deal with the identity of its protagonist, who's a woman. You know.
I get it. Also, but also, I think that uh, even though it is true, I mean, what you said about it, it is for money, not because they are good people. Of course, it is for money. But some people said, and I do agree to some extent to that, is I don't care if they do it for the money. I mean, I don't care if they want to profit from that if they're still doing something meaningful. But I mean, if they're doing something meaningful, not changing the name of McCree because McCree was a dude that harassed women, like doing something meaningful as actually hiring capable women inside the studios or that kind of thing. If you're doing that, and even if that's profitable for you, I mean, I'm okay with.
Yeah, I think you've all raised very interesting points, but I'm not gonna go and follow each one because then we're gonna be here like 5 hours. But I think it's very interesting what Valentina is saying, because it's like a sort of like a economical slash moral dilemma, but that kind of evens itself out sometimes, which is that, like, if they're doing it for money, but the end result is good and ultimately maybe positive for the industry, positive for the community, for positive for everybody, is it really bad? And the answer to me is no. I mean, it's not bad. They're getting their money, they're happy, and we're happy because we're getting what we want and what we need and everything. So it's like, okay, might not be for the right reasons, but let's not be that complicated, right? I don't know. But this brings me to another kind of thread that I think could be interesting, which is the fact that, so the reason why I wanted to make this episode is because during the holiday break, I think you guys remember, there was this story. I met a woman,
And
yeah,
now you're gonna
you,
you're gonna,
and I was like, please come
now
to
you're
my
gonna
podcast.
impress
You're
her.
the first woman I've met in the world.
Juan met a
yeah,
woman. He wants to impress her with the feminist episode of his
exactly,
podcast.
exactly. That's what I'm doing. No, so there was this story about the game that's coming up on, I think, May, that's called Forspoken, where there was this black protagonist that was being written apparently by white people. Among them was Amy Hennig, Gary Whitta, who's the writer for Rogue One and other movies. And there was kind of this controversy because why are white people writing for a female black protagonist and all that? And I don't think we're gonna go into that specifically because that's like another can of worms. But it is important on the fact that when you think about diversity in a dev room or in a writer's room or anything like that, usually I see that they kind of want like fulfill some quotas. Like, how is it possible that you don't have this many percent of this many people of this whatever group? And to me, it's not about that. To me, it's like, so if we're gonna do a product that's gonna be played by so many different people and that is kind of universal, if we bring in a diverse group of writers or a diverse group of developers, that's only gonna enrich the product. Because let's say that we're writing some dialogue for a black woman that's like an NPC. Maybe the white guy comes up with something that to him sounds right, but then another like female black person is like, no, that character wouldn't say that because such and such. This is something that can happen, and this sounds like a very small example and very non defined, because I didn't even say what the dialogue was, but this can happen on a variety of scales that can affect the product in many ways. So I think that, not for being woke or for being virtue signaling or whatever, But if you want to selfishly have a better product, just bring in more diverse people so that it can be better and you can benefit from it.
Yeah,
That's kind of my my stance.
but at the same time, anyone can create a story with like talking about anything. Like obviously, there is. I would say there's the argument. Like for example, I mean, we live in a very heated political moment. So I think it was what's the name of the guy? Eddie Redmayne. He said that if it was up to him nowadays, he wouldn't play the character that he did in the Danish Girl because he said like, oh, like. And to be fair, like I don't know what does he want? Like, does he want like a trans woman to play that character and then play as a man at the beginning? Like, it's kind of like it's acting. Like, I understand that you could think like, oh, maybe I'm taking the role away from someone that probably would do it better, not better, like someone that would do it that belongs to that community. But at the same time, no one would have seen that crap. Like in the sense that one of the reasons that that movie was really good, it was like he was relevant. He was kind of famous. Like it's it's not the same movie. Like if anything, you have to like create opportunities for people to like have this role, but you cannot expect it that it's gonna play out the same way. You know, like, and I think that to some extent it's part of the game. I do believe like you can create art like trying to put yourself in the shoes of someone else, because there's also like a part of privilege there. Like if I understand that Spielberg did Schindler's List, and he probably shouldn't have done. He should. It's not. He wouldn't have the same energy that Steve McQueen had for 12 Years a Slave, but he did direct. But Spielberg did direct Amistad, for example. So I don't know. It's not like you can't do it. It's just you have to do it right and you have to respect it. Obviously, if it's your community and like and you're not a fucking idiot, you're gonna be able to like write about yourself. But I think that in the case of games, it's not that hard because I think that some of these games, it's not like they're gonna be like massively story driven, and there has been a lot more groundwork done on female characters on games that I think that they have been done in like tentpole action movies. You know, to some extent, I think that it's just that we just gloss it over. Like it's unless it's being pushed into you, it's like it's as if we ignore it. Like, and I'm saying like from games like Horizon, or I'm saying like from games of like The Last of Us. Samus never comes up as a female protagonist, even though she's a female protagonist. She's a power fantasy, the same way that the Doom guy. They're not as many because in the end, like the people making them don't come from that background. But I think that if anything, it's hard for me to think of a game that does kind of like a shitty job at representing women without going out of its way of doing a shitty job by doing that. For example, I think that's the in God of War. Like I think there's kind of like this. Oh, I always remember this. Like there's like this huge sex scene where you kind of like do quick time men to have sex, and people are like, "Oh," and there comes the man from Anita Sarkeesian saying like, "Oh, see, this is why I don't like games. They appeal to the male fantasy." And to some extent it's like, yeah, that's literally the joke, that's part of the parody of that. And then I see people like, I think it's Cliff Blasinski, that he is always proud of, somehow he's proud that he thinks that Gears of War is a very feminist game because they have strong women. Yeah, he says that all the time on Twitter, and it's like it's not. It's at its core a very masculine, violent game that, if anything, you don't show naked women, but like it's still the same formula. Like if you want to rethink who is going to play your game, you have to rethink the nature of your game and like why people will play it. So I think that's kind of like the direction of like of what you're saying about like true diversity and like can you write a black protagonist. And it's like, well, if the game is going to be shooting shit up and exploding crap and just like big guns, it doesn't matter if the character is a female black woman. Like it's just another action game. You can
I
put
mean,
anyone there.
I think that if you do it right, that it's okay. You can do right whatever you want if it respects the character and it respects the history. of the game of that character. For example, I mean, this is not a video game, but I was thinking about this when I watched the Queen's Gambit. After a few episodes, I thought, I mean, this had to be written by a woman. I mean, it's no way a dude wrote this. There's no way. And I look it up, and it was all dudes.
Boom, bunch of men
And
knowing.
then I wrote, then I thought maybe the novel that is based on the Queen's Gambit is written by a girl, and it is not. It is also a
It is
dude.
not.
And I
Imagine that.
thought, like, this is how you write woman. I mean, doesn't matter if you're a dude, like, the guys at Queen's Gambit. I mean, I didn't read the novel, so maybe the novel is shittier. I don't know. Maybe it's not. But I mean, the way they portrayed her in the show, it felt really true to the experiences that women go through. And if you do it right, then I mean, be my guest. But if you think that you need help, or if you think that your character would be enhanced, or the experience in your game would be enhanced by bringing some other folks, which is usually true. If you bring more people, more experiences, it could play better. Then I mean, that's great. But if Forspoken didn't, I mean, was the girl in Forspoken was written by a dude, I mean, I don't mind as long as I don't mind if as long as it is good. If it's not good, then bro, you should seek help when you could.
Yeah,
Yes.
I totally agree. And by the way, the point I was making was not that it is wrong to do this. I'm not on that camp because I think that's a very extremist way to look at it. I was just looking at it like you both have said. If you like, if you are a white dude writing a black protagonist, female protagonist, if you do it correctly, I have nothing to say or add there. However, if like Valentina said, if you're looking for help or if you seek help just to enrich what you're thinking and what's going on in your creative mind, I think that will be helpful. Like that already sets you up kind of for success, at least in theory. You know? That was the only
Yeah,
point I
I
was
get
trying
it.
to
I
make.
get
Long
it.
live women.
We love
Name
women.
name every female led
Name a woman
protagonist.
for a
Name
dollar. Name a
exactly.
woman.
Ah, Lara Croft.
Boy, we love those women. Boy, we do.
I
Oh
think
my
that
god.
on a final note regarding this whole thing, it's it's really sad to see kind of like how the video game the press video game journalists held to such a high standards video game developers when it comes to like basically these topics of representation because I don't think that most of them are like doing it from an honest point of view, and they don't see how hard it is to actually make a video game, and I think that this the our little friend Jason Schreier he made quite a buzz. I think it was like last year when a new when that new studio posted a picture and there were like 20 white dudes and he was like, why would you do that in this day and age? And it's like, dude, because it's really hard to hire talent, and when you start a company, probably it's just your friends, and if it was
And
that
your
easy,
friends were white dudes. I
yeah,
mean,
your
that's
friends are where it
okay.
is. Yeah, like, and it's and we don't know what game he's gonna make. We don't know who's gonna hire. And then he was even complaining like, oh, they have a picture of a dog on their website before they hired a black dude. And it's like, dude, that's pretty fucking racist thing to say. You know, like it's just a fucking dog. That doesn't mean that he was actually hired. And I think that when you demand that from like from a point of hatred, because in the end that are just like
Yeah,
opportunism.
of course, yeah.
You make you make people react and be defensive on a topic that it should never be that contagious. It should just be like, hey, you should work on diversity, and that's it. And it's not a bad thing to say. But if you say like, oh, I can't imagine like how someone would do something like this shouldn't happen. And it's like, well, you're threatening the existence of a new studio. How do you think those people are going to feel when you tell them that? Oh, you shouldn't exist. You shouldn't have this job. It's like,
And it's
it,
the wording. It's how you say things, or how you convey your ideas. I was looking out. I was reading this guy Twitter. Not Jason. I mean the dude that Jason called out. And I say, I mean, there's no way this dude is, I mean, he doesn't look like a misogynistic prick. And I check it out, and guess what? He's not. He's like the common white liberal dude in the United States. I mean, he's not even American, but he's like, the pro Black Lives Matter, pro women, pro LGBTQ guy. So, I mean, I do believe that even if you say all these things, you still can be a prick and you can still be an asshole. But I mean, this guy really seems like a good guy. Of course, his Twitter doesn't tell me anything, but I do believe that you can say things in a better way. I mean, the way Jason framed this guy was like he is like such
Like it
a
shouldn't exist, like it belongs in a
lie.
different
Yeah,
time, like that studio shouldn't exist, and this is just a
yeah,
man starting a business, and it's
and
it's it's
and it,
shameful. It's like, what
yeah.
have you done? Who have you hired, you prick? Who, like, that's the thing, like these are people's jobs, these are families, like you don't know who this benefits, and like you don't know how this company's going to look like in 10 years from now, what game they're going to make. The fact that you're just like, it's wild that a new game studio looks like this, it's like, why is it wild? Like, go to tell that to the people in City Project, or to the people that make Metro. Go and tell them that. It's just like this American lens of like, oh, this is not exactly what I expect, so it should not exist. And it's like, you're not right. This is wrong. Like you even if were honestly thinking of like improving society, the way you're doing it, it's literally not the way to go, because it's not how it works. Like, if someone wants to make a company with only white people, then it's like, it's okay, like it's not illegal. If you effectively don't want to hire black people, then you have a problem. That's discrimination. But I don't know. It's just so weird that that's the level of that he wants to go, because these are not politicians. Like, the fact that the 20 white dudes get together and they make a game, it's not like, it's not like they're not, it's not that the game is not about letting trans people use the bathroom. It's just a different, it's just not a political statement. The fact that a game studio, it's like, it's part of a bigger problem maybe, but also it's not that easy to fix. It's just a company that's just starting, and I'm sure that if there's like 20 white dudes in the US, most likely, and they're banking and they're working on gaming, most likely they're going to work on diversity, because they know that's important. Otherwise, pricks like him are going to jump to their throats. So
Also, I mean, you said something very important right now, that's not the main problem. I mean, the problem is not that this dude hire 20 white dudes. I mean, the problem comes from it's a much more bigger one. I mean, you won't fix the issue by calling out this dude the way that he did. And okay, or maybe then he hires more people and then he shows a photo of the people that he hired, but you're not fixing the problem. The problem is, how can more women enter the industry in the get-go? I mean, why aren't as much women studying computer science than the dudes in a lot of places? I mean, that's actually the issue. Why aren't you teaching girls that they can be engineers, that they can be programmers, that they can be game designers? I mean, those are the issues, and you're not fixing it by calling out people around the United States because they are all white. I mean, they're in Canada actually. They are not even from the U.S. But I mean, you know what I mean. The problem is much more bigger, and and you won't solve it that way.
And it's also not this guy's fault. Like, it's not this guy's fault. That's not gonna solve anything. It's just gonna create a snarky situation on Twitter that you'll get a lot of quote tweets and a lot of likes and a lot of comments. That
Although
I
to be
mean,
fair, it is weird that it is kind of weird, but I'm not gonna say anything about it. I mean, I would say like you really didn't find any girl, like name a woman for $1, but I don't know what's the demographic. Maybe they're in, I don't know, Winnipeg. I mean, Winnipeg is in Canada, right?
I think
yeah,
so.
it is.
I mean, and I
Well,
don't know, if in Winnipeg there are a lot of women working in the industry. I don't know.
yeah, like I totally understand your point, because when I saw this whole controversy, I was like, wow. I mean, it's weird that in today's world these guys didn't like take this into account, because they kind of should have known that this would be a problem, but that doesn't mean that they're guilty of anything. I mean, it could be what you're saying. Like, we don't know what circumstances there were to hire these people. We don't know how, in what city they are. Like, if they're in Winnipeg, in Canada, if maybe the population of female developers there is lower. I have no idea. Like, there could be so many variables there that we don't know. And for Jason to just go out and throw this guy under the bus automatically without maybe even looking at the circumstances, to me, it's just shitty. And to me, I just always empathize with the fact that we already, like, there's no way for us to know how hard it is to make a video game, but we kind of imagine it because we know we're in this industry, we're informed about it. So this person, he creates this whole team. I believe he kind of was fired, or maybe he left another big developer, which I don't
studio. These are kind of like some studio veterans, and they just like this is a new studio. That's the thing. That they're literally like starting a new business. They haven't done anything. They're not making money. They're not taking money away from anyone. They're not ripping off anyone. This dude is literally just spending his own money to like get a business running. And then this sucker comes. It's like, I can't believe it exists. And then the next tweet, because I'm reading it, it's like, back in the day, I used to have a podcast that was just two dudes. It was good. Then we added a woman. Oh my God, Jason.
It was a lot better.
Wow, it got exponentially better. Wow, incredible, yeah. Jason. You have solved inequality. Incredible. Like, it just add a black dude to your podcast, and that's it, and you're a hero. Oof, is he a hero? I guess so. Turns out different perspectives improve your product. In other words, anyone who responds with all that matters is getting quality, is getting blocked. Of course, this is he basically just showed his co-host as a trophy. So the next tweet is, of course, we didn't add Maddie because she's a woman. We added her because she's a great podcaster, which is visible from her identity. Like how my personality and perspective was shaped by growing up Jewish, and curious was shaped by only dying 7 times in Returnal. Ho ho ho! What a fucking idiot! Like, you can't say like we added a woman and I got better days. Like, but we didn't add her because it was a woman. Like, it's just pick a fucking side, bro. Just like it just gets me. This guy gets me every single time he speaks. I'm glad I don't know, like, I'm glad he blocked me. Like, I never interacted with him, and he blocked me. So I'm guessing, like, I know he found out my tweets. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, I like that's why I hate him so fucking much. And that's not the attitude that you have with a guy that's just starting a business. That's the attitude that you probably could have against corporations where they have such a fucked up company that they steal like breast milk from the fridge. Like, that's just like, okay, this is incredibly bad. It's like borderline unacceptable. Like, close the company. But this guy just happens to be like hanging out with his white friends, who probably are the ones who have money to go and start working on a small studio. Like, that's the other thing. Like, why does a new studio, which has an incredible amount of risk, how many underrepresented minorities have the opportunity to like jump out to a big company and go there and work for some like random risk? I don't even have that
amount of that amount of money. Usually, I mean, the people who have money are white dudes in most part of the world, so it makes sense.
I know it's just like not an economical thing. It's just like the beginning of the studio. So in the end, that's not how you fight for diversity. And if anything, this is an industry that it's going in the right direction. And there are some honest projects out there. Idiots, there are going to be idiots everywhere, but I think that things are coming nicely when it comes to like inclusivity and accessibility in gaming.
Yeah. Just to finish this point, I think that what Jason accomplished with this kind of attitude was maybe two things. People who are maybe in the middle of this issue were pushed more towards the wrong side of the issue, because him being an asshole just makes the people go towards the opposite end of the thing, which is not really the point, right? Like of what he's supposedly trying to fight for, right? And he ruined the announcement of this person's new team that he's probably been for weeks working with people, maybe gathering budget. I have no idea how much maybe this guy had to work to put together the team. He finally announces it on Twitter, and this is the response he gets from one of the biggest guys in the industry. So it's like, fuck that, it's horrible. But I think we've reached the end of the initial topic. We've covered a lot of things, unless there's something that you guys want to say before we move on to the last part of the show.
I
Thank
just
you,
want to
all the
say
beautiful women
that
in the world.
woman, yeah, woman.
God bless you, women.
Okay, so let's begin with what have we been playing. So, because we have our very gracious guest here, let's begin with Valentina. What have you been playing?
Well, I'm currently playing Control. Control. I'm playing
Oh,
Control
because you're a woman.
because
That's why
I'm a
you're playing
woman.
Control.
No, but I mean, Control. I love. First, I mean, I love the game. I really love the game. I didn't play. I haven't played Alan Wake or Quantum Break, so I didn't experience anything from Remedy before. But I really, really do love Control. I love how it feels, and also the female protagonist is she is really badass. I mean, she feels really, really, really nice.
Yeah, she's really well written, and she's truly like one of the best games of the last or years. What have you been playing, sir, Christian?
I have COVID, which is not a game, but it's been playing with me for the past couple of days. I'm almost I'm all like, I don't have any symptoms except like a small cough. But I tested positive on Monday when I arrived. Quite a pain in the ass. Last week I was in the US and I took it and finished. No, before the US, I finished Metroid. I was playing Metroid Red, and I bought it thinking that I was gonna finish it in the plane, but then I ended up like playing the whole thing before leaving. Great game. I have to recommend it. It is probably the best looking game on the Switch. It's action packed, great bosses. The design is almost flawless. Like I always knew instinctively where I had to go. I have a few complaints. The save system, it's a bit shitty. Like when you die, it takes you somewhere, and then you think like, okay, I can close the game because it's like the last point where I'm gonna um, be brought back when I come back to the game. It does not do that. I lost like a one time I lost like 45 minutes, no, like 2 hours of gameplay and one boss because I accidentally locked out. It's not like I even closed it. Like it has this thing where you just like confirm or cancel with the buttons. So I clicked B twice or something like that, and then I got out to the main screen and lost it and lost the progress. Absolute bullshit. But other than that, incredible game. So yeah, that's one of the ones I'm playing right now.
Okay, yeah, we always do like one each, and then we just go around the table. So I did finish Halo Infinite. I loved that game back in December. I know that the Christian played it. He wasn't really into it, but I'm a weird Halo fan because I never had the original Xbox, but I just love those games. I played them all, and yeah, I think that the addition of the open world is pretty interesting because they don't really abuse your time with it. I mean, it's a big enough map for it to be cool to explore and everything, but it doesn't really overwhelm you with so many things that you're just annoyed and doing repetitive things. In fact, comparing people are comparing this to Far Cry, and I've played almost all Far Cries. And for example, conquering a stronghold in Far Cry is always like kill everybody, kill everybody, kill everybody. Here, every like first of all, there's only like 7 strongholds, which is already like very little. And second of all, each one of them has a different set of objectives within it that you need to complete to like conquer them. So I found that to be really cool. I loved it. The addition of the grapple hook makes the combat very kinetic and very cool. I love that. And yeah, the story wasn't really up to par with the rest of the game with how much fun I had, but I still loved it and I enjoyed it a lot, very very much. Valentina, is there another game that you're playing at the moment?
Well, I mean, I'm currently playing. I also have The Witcher 3 downloaded, and I've been playing it for a while now, but it's taking me forever. I mean, it's not like it didn't hook me like Control did. I mean, I like it, but I play it like once a week, maybe less than that. But what I play most of my time, if I'm not playing Control, at the moment, I play TFT. Teamfight Tactics, which is a game mode that Riot, an auto chess. I don't know if you know what an auto chess is. Type of game. It's a game. It's called auto chess because you have your pieces or your champions, and you put them in the board, and they play by themselves. So it's like a game, Riot Games game, uh,
But they copied
within the
it.
world.
They copied it
From
from a mod, Dota 2 mod.
yeah, no, I
Once
mean,
again, that's
once
their business
again,
model. That's their business model. They copy. Now this is a bit meta because like Dota started as a Warcraft 3 mod, and now Auto Chess started as a Dota mod, and now and then the next. Obviously, like there's not gonna be another iteration because there's never gonna be any mods approved by Riot in the history of
of
that
Riot.
company.
Yeah,
Exactly. So that's that. It ends with them. The curse.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, Riot did it better
Than what? Than the random dude
than
in
Dota.
Singapore?
Yeah.
You're talking about League of Legends versus Dota. Yeah, yeah, it's more fun.
It's more fun. I mean, and TFT. I mean, yes, they did it better. I mean, TFT is the superior auto chess game, in my opinion, of course.
God bless Rito.
God bless Rita.
I've also been playing Donkey Kong because I bought another Switch game before for the travel. Donkey Kong is hard, man. Like it's no one's telling you that,
I
but
told
Donkey
you.
Kong.
I did tell you he's peludo.
Every fucking game I've been playing, like I look around and then suddenly it's a Souls game. They can't stop making them. It's savage. It's savage as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have the Funky Kong now, where you can just breeze through it and
Fuck
surf
off.
through it.
I play in classic mode, OG Donkey Kong.
I
How does
love
that
it.
work?
Yes.
Like you get the guy walks with you and like saves you. Like what's up?
I don't know. I think you play as him, and maybe with the surfboard, you kind of surf the spikes and the holes,
Fuck
like
that.
the chasm. Yeah, it's
OG
horrible.
Donkey Kong.
Yeah. So the other game I played a lot of games, but I'm not gonna go into much detail because I know it's gonna be super long. But I played the final Yakuza game for me, Yakuza 6, the Song of Life.
It's over.
It's
trip
over
is
now.
over.
I'm kind of sad. I may replay them all. No, I'm kidding. I can't do that again. But I really love the saga. This is a very good end to Kiryu's whole story because this is the final game where Kiryu's the protagonist.
What was your
And,
favorite
yeah.
game?
My favorite game, it's hard to say because I enjoyed it so much, but I would say Yakuza Kiwami 2, maybe, or Yakuza 0. Like those two are my top.
Okay.
And well, yeah, also Yakuza 7. It's like they're so good, man. It's hard to choose. Maybe tomorrow I'll say different games.
No
And
love for
I
Judgment?
have, yeah, like comparing it to Judgment, then I have to add Judgment in there as well because they're so good. It's just amazing. Let's go back to Valentina. Are you playing something else?
Currently, what else? What else am I playing? What else do I have downloaded? Well, I have Destiny because I downloaded to play with friends, and my friends haven't been playing with me.
I'm sorry. We're
Mm.
waiting for the $100 DLC. That's how we work. We either
Oh.
economically invested into the game or we don't.
So, but yeah, I have Destiny. I like it. I'm not a fan of shooters in general. So,
It's
but
not a
I
shooter.
what it is. I mean, okay,
It's
tell me.
shared. It's a shared universe. This is the feminist podcast. I'm not supposed to
Yeah.
explain anything to you.
Yeah, yeah. Please explain, mansplaining to me.
Oh my god.
Man, explain it to me. Yeah, please.
Yeah, but no, yeah.
It
I mean,
backfired.
I like, yeah, it backfire. I like it, although I'm not into usually those kind of games. But I really like Destiny. How it feels. It just feels easy to play. I don't know. It's not my type of game, but I like it. So I'm waiting for my friends to keep playing.
I'll restart. Don't worry. But you better pump up because like we're gonna have start like hoarding guns and weapons and like getting that what's the
Light
name of
level up.
the level the name of the
Orbs.
level? No,
Light.
Yeah,
the
no.
light power, increasing the
Light.
Mm-hmm.
light power all to the roof because we're gonna go rating. I've also been playing. I haven't been playing, but like I bought and downloaded Eastward, which is like a top-down RPG, and Blasphemous, which is just yet another Souls game. Is it hard? You finished it, right, Juan? It's like a hard game, or like it's not that bad?
Not really. It has one of these parry mechanics that makes the game quite manageable,
Yeah.
and I think it's not that hard.
Yeah, I saw that one. But the one that I'm actively playing and probably going to try to finish this week is the DLC for Outer Wilds, Echoes of the Eye, and I'm already mind blown. Like I have to say that I bought it like a while ago, and I was like a bit skeptical because I couldn't figure out like the first puzzle. It was like, what the fuck is going on here? But then I did, and so far so good. Like I had already like a few of those mind blown. Outer Wilds moment where you're like, wow, did this just happen? And it's just that good. The studio has a really good formula with this game, and it just I just really want to know what they work on next because this is going to be like the only DLC that they're going to make for this game. So
Awesome. So the other game I wanted to talk a little bit about is Death's Gambit Afterlife. This is a game that came out in 2018. And when it came out, it wasn't really bad, but it wasn't really that outstanding either. It was like yet another pixel art 2D indie Souls-like kind of game. But it always like kind of looked good to me, but I never really jumped into it. So I heard that they had planned this free DLC that was looking cool. So I was like, okay, this is the perfect time to buy it. I found it for like $5 on the PlayStation Store. So I was like, okay, let's just keep these, freeze it, put it in cryogenics until the DLC comes out. The DLC came out in December, and I was very, very impressed by this game because these people, the developers, they put out this game back in 3 years ago. They had a lot of criticisms for it because, as I said, it wasn't very outstanding. It was just like a normal, good-ish game. But they took feedback from, I'm guessing, critics and the community, and they added, like, they fixed a lot of things with the combat, I believe. They added some zones. They added a couple of like areas and quests and stuff. But the most important thing for me is that they recontextualized the ending of the game. The ending used to be like there was a final boss that you also fight here, but then after you fight this boss, other things start to happen that even kind of break the fourth wall in a way that I found very, very like unexpected. And I was very impressed by the fact that these people doubled down on this game because they believed in it, and instead of just saying like, okay, let's scrap this and move on to something else. So yeah, I to me this was a very cool experience that went even beyond the game. Like it was like this whole, yeah, it's pretty cool. I really, really recommend it. And yeah, like the DLC is free. You can just get it this and maybe at a sale or maybe not. Like it's, I think it's full price. It's $15, maybe something like that. And yeah, it's very, very awesome. I highly recommend it.
cool. Is it another Souls game?
It is, but it has its charm. It's very, very cool and very beautiful. Like the pixel art is really, really beautiful. Valentina, back to you.
Um, well, another game. I mean, I have.
I have like
You don't
10.
have
I'm
to.
sorry.
You need to have like
Yeah, exactly.
we're fucking nerds. That's why we have like 4 games every week, and every week is different. Don't be
I
like
think
us.
no. I mean, I have a job.
I'm sorry.
Usually, sometimes I have to eat. Yeah, I'm
Too
sorry.
bad for you.
I mean,
Yeah.
no, I downloaded. I mean, I deleted some games that I haven't been playing enough, but I have still Operation Tango that I have downloaded.
Oh, I
I
heard good
didn't.
things.
I mean, I haven't played it because I need someone else to play it. So I mean, you have to play it with someone else. You have to play with a partner. So your the idea behind that is like you're like a spy team. Someone is a hacker and the other is like on ground spy, kind of hitman kind of thing. So one of you, I mean, and you can't share. I mean, you don't see the screen of your your partner's screen. So if you're a hacker, you're telling him like, oh, you should go there because I opened the door for you, but there is a guard in that. I mean, that sort of thing. And I think it seems pretty fun. It really seems fun. So I'm excited for that one.
Cool.
Christian?
That's it. I mentioned like a
Oh, that's
gazillion
it.
games. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go then blaze through all these and let's say. Okay,
It
so
was-
I
it was-
finished.
We had the Christmas break, so yeah.
Exactly. We had the Christmas break, and I have no social life. I mean, my social life is basically this podcast and the group that we go right through. So yeah, like I just play games, people. So I finished It Takes Two with one of the buddies in our group. I found it very enjoyable. I very highly recommend this game because these people they don't do a game that you can play in co-op. They create a co-op experience that is a game, and so the co-op is at the center of the philosophy of design. So it's pretty interesting. Both this and A Way Out are very good. So I recommend it. Mafia Definitive Edition, I played it as well. I really like this game. The mechanics and like the open world is like almost nothing. There's nothing to do in the open world, but I mean, to me, that's not like a criticism. It's just something you have to keep in mind if you're comparing it to like a GTA, because it's nothing like that. This is mostly a narrative game that has some shooting in it. The shooting is not very special either. I mean, it's very like bare bones, but it's serviceable. It's cool. The gem here is the story and the characters. Like that is super well written, and I loved it. Like I thought it was a great gangster story. Then I played Little Nightmares 2. I played the first one. I really liked it, and this one was one of those short and sweet games that are so well made. Like the way they use sound, the way they use atmosphere, the way. I mean, to me, this game was more scary than Resident Evil. I mean, like.
Yeah, I
100%.
have Little Nightmares. I haven't played it, but
Play it.
I want to. If it feels like Inside or Limbo, I think.
It's like it has some of it, yeah. I mean, to me, we've already covered in this podcast that I'm not the biggest Inside fan.
Yeah, I was
This
gonna
is
say
more
that.
my jam.
Yeah, I know.
But
And I come here every week. Valentina.
Choices with them. Okay, I respect you as a person.
I am looking to play it again to see if maybe I can see what's going
It
on with
hasn't
that
changed
game.
that much, man. It hasn't changed
Yeah.
that much. You just
Maybe he changed.
You just walk to the right, and then the game ends.
Maybe he changed.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe I
Inside.
change. That can happen,
Yeah.
Christian.
Yeah.
We mature as humans,
People
and we
change.
yeah,
You can
we
you
grow.
can literally download it now, boot it up, and then you can go to bed at around like 1 a.m. if you do that now. It's that short.
I agree. And also, there's like a sale now where you can buy Limbo and Inside for $6 or something
and
like
the
that. So-
they're saying that the new game is gonna be open world, so can
Really?
Yeah, if you it's been a while since they did some job listings and they were looking for like I think some technical artists that they had experience with open world games. I think it was or like developers, but it was or they were saying they were building an open world experience, something like that. So
That's cool. That's cool. I mean,
So let's see.
I would love to see that from them. Like, what would they come up with? Like, you know, like
yeah, there are
Pretty
other
curious.
directions, not only right.
maybe diagonal, maybe
Yeah, I
up.
don't know. Up, down, left,
The possibilities are not endless, but many.
but three dimensional. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so I don't have that many games left. I played Deathloop. I had a very weird experience with this game because I'm a big Arcane fan, as maybe many people know. All of the millions of fans that this podcast has, and I was coming in this game like with that in my mind. And this game, when you compare it to previous Arcane games, suffers a little bit because it doesn't have that. First of all, AI, and second of all, it doesn't have that depth, let's say, within the level design and within how you can tackle objectives. But when you make it click in your mind, yeah, exactly, you don't have that freedom at all. When you make it click in your mind that this is basically a murder puzzle, where you just have to find like the clues here, the clues there, it becomes a cool experience. But like, If they do a Deathloop 2, I'm happy because I think that they can improve upon this and make it something truly great. But I don't want Arcane, like old Arcane, to go away. And that is kind of a real fear because this was their highest rated game. And to me, it's their worst game. So it's like maybe they say that people want this, and it would be like a very bad thing to happen.
The thing is that we usually associate like roguelike with hard, And I
True.
think that this is not a roguelike game. It's what you're saying, it's a puzzle game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it has roguelite elements, but it's not at all.
But it's the same thing as saying that Outer Wilds is a roguelike game. It's not. It's just like it's a game that...
Absolutely. I agree.
If you know what to do, just go in that direction, and then it can become a bit repetitive. Not Other Wilds. Other Wilds is perfect. I'm talking about like that.
Exactly. No, actually, people have compared it, and it's true that the way you move forward in Outer Wilds is through information. Like, information becomes progression. And here it's the same thing, only not done as well.
Yeah.
And
but
then
also,
my final...
I think you should definitely play Moon Crash, which is...
I want to, yes.
Skill Up said the same in his video.
And if you play it, you can let me know if I have to play it, and that's we retrofit, or we can play it at the same time. We can if I finish, if I finish. The thing is that you're gonna finish it like in 2 days, and then I'm gonna die of COVID, and then you're gonna have to do a posthumous review.
Press F.
F.
But Christian, if you go into the Moon Crash, you'll never die because you'll go in with COVID and you'll die, but you'll come back to the beginning.
You respawn.
So yeah,
you respawn.
The gif of the guy doing like
think smart.
Yes. So my last two games are The Return of the Obra Dinn. I for some reason I had never played this game. This is an amazing game. Like, you have to figure out what happened in this thing. It's, funnily enough, another murder puzzle right after Deathloop, but I really love this game. Like, it's hard to describe, but you like live out these flashbacks and you have to like position yourself within the flashback to figure out what happened and figure out who the crew is, like who each person is, how they died. And it's amazing. It's a very short game as well, but very, very, very much recommended, as you've probably heard from the entire industry that they've recommended this game. And then what I'm playing now, this is my last game to talk about, is Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. This game is truly amazing. I'm right about to finish it. I'm probably going to finish it today. And this was a very big surprise for me because when this game got announced, I was immediately turned off by it. Maybe I just associated with Avengers. Maybe I just felt like they were trying to go for sort of like the movie, but not quite the movie, like in terms of the characters and the voices and the whole thing. And I was like, this is going to be shit. But then comes the game, it releases, and the reviews are so high, and then other friends are playing it and they're saying it's so good. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll have to check it out. And it's truly a remarkable game. Like, the story is done very, very well. It has some very, very cool set pieces, also some very good character moments. Like, you become attached to these characters. People are saying, and I agree, that this is better than the movies. It's definitely better than the movies. And yeah, like some people say the combat is very basic. I really love it. I mean, it's not the best thing in the world, but it's really cool and dynamic. So yeah, I totally recommend this game. It's very, very big surprise for me to have liked it.
I'm happy that game did that, because at some point I think we were just associating video game adaptation from superheroes like they were meant to be shit. Because it's happened with the Telltale games for Batman, which is like not that good. The Walmart Avengers was fucking terrible. And I think that Marvel has, and I think that DC as well, like that we have set our faces on our heroes, and like anything that is not Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Hemsworth or Scarlett Johansson, we're just like, man, this is probably gonna be shit because they can't afford like real actors. And it doesn't have to be that way. Like, it should be the opposite. It should be like the video games are even better than the movies because they have the time, they have the mechanics. Like, so I'm definitely gonna like give it a go at that game when I have a chance to.
Please do, man. I think I hope you like it as much as we've all loved it.
Yeah, sure.
And so with that, we've reached the end of our episode, the first episode of 2022, episode 62, which is kind of a cool coincidence.
The first one with a woman.
The first episode in the history of the internet with a woman, and we actually never seen a woman before invited you, Valentina. So thank you very much.
Yeah, well, she could be an AI, so we don't really know.
Exactly. That was the other option. Get a dude to play a woman, and then do the waifu filter on
Yeah.
top.
Yeah, do the gender. What's it called? The
Gender
pitch.
bending.
Thing.
Gender
Yeah,
bend.
gender bender pitch thing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. And also, I mean,
Absolutely.
it is a very cool topic. It is nice to talk about it in a maybe in a different light. Not all the time has to be like, I love women, and that's why we have tons of women. Like, dude, I mean, let's be honest here. But also it is fun to I mean, it is fun to do this, but we need to realize that we need more girls playing games. We need more girls getting into some technical degrees, and in general more women getting into the industry, and the industry needs to be kinder with us in order for us to be there.
That is a
Cool.
great point to end the episode. So if you liked this, please subscribe, like. We'll
Like and
put
subscribe
yes,
and the
we'll
bell.
put Valentina's details up on the screen and down on the description and everywhere.
What
Please check out.
details? You
Well, I
want-
don't know,
you
like
want people
your
to keep
Twitter
happy.
or yeah. Oh well, then we'll put nothing. We'll
Yeah.
I'm gonna
nothing.
bleep out the name Valentina, which you will not hear because I'll bleep it out, and
One two
you won't
seven
know who she
zero
is.
001. Ha! You've been doxxed.
Check out hammerspadepodcast.com, which is Christian
Okay.
Caroli's podcast, and we will see you next week on another episode of New Game Experience.